Alright, I got an idea.
Okay.
This house is pretty bad. Welcome to I Hope You Suffer. This is episode 145 of I Hope You
Wow.
Suffer. I had to think 2 episodes ahead. My name is Nathan,
I'm Katie.
and this week we are doing something that's sort of special, and also I'm very mad I came up with this because I'm already over it, but Katie and I are going to watch probably all her, most of what is available, the Amityville horror movies, and oh boy, there are a lot of them.
Hoo-hoo.
So this first episode is going to be in the regular feed, and I think the rest of them will be on Patreon. But I think we're going to try and do them by decade. So this first episode, we watched the first 4 movies, which is the Amityville Horror, the first one from 1979, and then we're going to the 4th movie, Amityville, The Evil Escapes, from 1989. All 4 movies of varying degrees of watchability, in my opinion.
At the risk of saying too much off the bat, these took a drop really abruptly.
I have opinions.
Okay.
I guess before we talk about the movies, what's like, I think you had said all you'd really seen was maybe the first one and the remake.
I definitely have seen the first one multiple times. I've seen the remake a few times. Parts of the second one seemed familiar to me. Not enough. Like, I feel like maybe I've watched part of it, but I didn't really remember. And then I feel like I remembered some of the fourth one. So it was probably one of those things where they were like running them on AMC and I had it on the background or something. But like the first one and the remake are the only ones that I remembered. Like whatever I've seen of the other ones, I didn't remember enough for it to make a difference, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I had seen 1 through 3 before, and then the remake, and that's it. And as of right now, because there are other ones that are coming out sometime this year, there are 4, 5, 6, 7, like 29 movies with the Amityville title. Maybe less, if because this list has the Conjuring movies in it, which I don't think I'm going to watch. I don't know. If they're available for free on Netflix, I might, but I'm like they're.
Sorry, you're breaking up really, really bad for me.
Oh,
I didn't hear anything you just said.
weird. I was saying there's like I'd seen the first 3 in the remake out of there are something like 29 and counting Amityville movies. None of them of any continuity or tied to the first one really in any way other than probably footages of that house.
Yeah.
And like the list I have on Letterboxd continues to grow because there's like 2 or 3 that are supposed to come out this year.
Yeah, and even like that, like when we were first like looking them up, I pulled up the wiki, and that list is even different than like the IMDb list. So who knows? I think I'm I'm trying to remember. I think there's not as many books. Like there are multiple books, but I think maybe there's only 4 or 5. I'm not sure.
Yeah, this was like never really a like quote unquote franchise, because like I said, it's not like any of them have any tie other than like Amityville being in the name or the plot, but like
Yeah.
like I've never had any real affinity for them, but for some reason I saw something on Letterboxd and I was just kind of like clicking through like people, and I saw like, I forget which one it was, that I was just like, what the fuck? Oh, I think it was Amityville Clown House, and I was like, oh my god, what is this? And then I like looked up like a list, and I was just like, how are there this many movies, and how do they all look extremely stupid? And I was like, I think I'm gonna watch all of these now.
Yeah. Yeah, it was kind of like a weird coincidence because like when you were telling me about that, I had recently, so the only like I have never had like a connection to this series or this franchise at all either, except for the first one, because like I'll get into it a little bit, but the actual, like most people know, it's based off of supposedly true events, so things that actually happened. So from like a true crime standpoint, I'm like really familiar with it, and it was one of the first like kind of like older staple horror movies that I saw like once I started like actually searching them out. So I had seen this one, probably it's like one of the first, with like The Exorcist and stuff like that. Like I had seen this one before I probably saw any like Halloween or Friday the 13th or anything like that. So that's really the only connection I have to it. And because the story is really only rooted in this like very first one and sort of the second one, I kind of didn't really feel like I wanted to watch any of the other ones, just because I knew it was like all completely made up. But now I'm actually a little intrigued as to how they're gonna connect it all.
I I have an assumption that like I assume maybe, like, I know they're not connected, but I really feel like the first 8 are going to kind of feel like they are, and then everything after the remake is gonna be like separate stuff, because at least the first 8, 4 and 5 don't have it, but they all at least have that house on the cover.
Yeah.
And kind of have like posters that look sort of similar, and then everything after that pretty much looks like the garbage you find on Tubi.
Yeah.
So
yeah, you're right.
But I know like none of them have any sort of real ties together, but at least poster wise, for the most part, they have kind of like the same feel to them, so they kind of look like they will be, but I assume they're all going to be, after the 4th movie, they almost all seem like they're going to be some haunted item from the house or some shit, which is extremely stupid, and I can't wait to see the fucking one about the clock.
I can't either. That's the one, so we, when we were, I don't remember what we were trying to do. I think it was when the month that we did sequels, and I wanted to do It's About Time, but like everyone had seen a few of them, which we didn't pick. So I'm excited to get to that point. I don't know. I don't think it's gonna be great, but
well, based on the one about the lamp, I don't think it will be great either.
Jesus. Oh my god.
All right, so let's jump into the Amityville horror from 1979. I do not like this movie.
Oh, okay.
It's totally fine, but I like, so in general, I'm not like a haunted house movie fan, really, because I feel like I guess this is probably the one that set up a lot of the tropes. Like, this is that first one that kind of, I think, is the reason we have all of the fucking Insidious and Conjuring and all that kind of bullshit now.
Yeah.
Like, this is the one I remember that kind of has that same sort of feel, I guess. And, like, there's things in it that they're fine. Like, this isn't a movie. I guess this isn't a movie I hate. Like, it's just very middle of the road for me.
It's also like I absolutely love haunted house movies. I guess because to me, as far as like, I don't know, putting aside whether you believe in paranormal or supernatural or like if you're really religious and because like a lot of these movies, except for like one of them, I think really heavily focused around like having priests come over to like bless the place and their sensing. It goes beyond sort of like paranormal because it also crosses over into like good and evil and like demons and whether you believe all that stuff or whatever. To me, I feel like the haunted house stuff gets me because like those are experiences that just like normal people have who like aren't into horror or anything like that. And so to me, I just love them. That being said, I don't feel like there's a lot of really good ones. I feel like it is sort of hard to pull off. And that's why I appreciate these older movies because they just, I mean, until we get to the 3D one, they really just focus on like practical effects, which I really like. But yeah, a lot of tropes like, you know, the chair starts rocking for no reason, doors slam open and shut, windows cut people's hands off and shit, you know. So, but yeah.
I definitely like. It's definitely, I think, better than a lot of the ones that are now that are just kind of jump scare type things. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't know, like, cause like, I think I saw this around the same time I probably saw like The Exorcist and The Omen, which I just think are like just classes above what this movie is.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, it always just kind of, like, I don't know, it never totally worked for me. And hot take, the remake I find way better.
No, I mean, yeah, I really like the remake. I think, so, like, part of the thing that makes this movie scary to me, too, is, like, I mean, we see this in other movies, obviously, like The Shining. I feel like there's a lot of parallels between, like, this and The Shining, where the family moves in. This one's a little bit different because so their names are Kathy and George Lutz. They have children, but the children are actually her children from a previous marriage, and he's like the stepdad. So you have that like dynamic, and you know, it's like interesting because unlike a lot of paranormal movies like this, I feel like there's not really a ton of action around the children. Like, there's one kid that gets his hand slammed in the window. Ouch, I felt that one. Which that actually did. Supposedly, according to the real Lutz family, that is a thing that did actually happen. And then you have the little girl who has a imaginary friend named Jody, which, again, supposedly actually really happened. And then Jody does stuff sometimes, right? But most of the paranormal experiences are from Kathy and also George. And so we see throughout the movie, George's, I mean, I guess also spoiler alerts for some of these movies if you're going to watch them, but he becomes like essentially possessed. And I think that and in this movie, like pretty much all they did was make him look kind of scary. Like they put bags under his eyes are red, his face is really pale, he's like sweaty all the time, which yeah, that's scary and gross. But I feel like what they did to Ryan Reynolds of all people, who just looks physically like the nicest guy you'll ever meet, he looked so scary by the end of the remake that like I just think they pulled it off better.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. That's the thing that I feel like this one kind of fails at, is they like James Brolin kind of doesn't. He kind of just seems like a madder version of himself.
Yeah. I think one of the things about this movie too is like even though they embellished some of the stuff that the real family says they experienced and what happened to them, I still feel like not a lot of stuff happens in this movie compared to some other, like even compared to the second one where shit is popping off all the time. Not a lot of stuff happens, and I feel like they like leave you to interpret a lot of stuff, which I feel like is one of the reasons that like maybe people don't like this movie as much because you watch it and if you don't have any context for what's happening, it's kind of like okay, nothing really happened. But if you're like more familiar with the actual case and like the actual claims, I feel like maybe you get more out of it because you already have that context going in. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it probably worked a lot better in 79 and the like
Yeah.
cuz like I could see people now having the same kind of thing with maybe like Jaws where
Yeah.
like cuz like Jaws was also like people were like just getting done and like reading the book and all of that shit and like that probably, you know, I'm sure that's what happened with this and what made it explode was like the book was probably massively popular and then this movie came out and like it's, I don't know, it's fine. It's just like a movie that, like other than like making the decision to watch all these, I've never felt since seeing it before like to ever rewatch it.
Yeah. Yeah, because like this happened. So basically like if you've never seen it, that basically the story is that um this guy, this he's real, named Ronald DeFeo, one night just like randomly decided that he's going to kill his entire family. And so that happened in 74 and 75 he went to jail. He was tried, went to jail. And then this book came out in 77. So people were reading the book, having seen, like, I can't even imagine, like, having seen this case, because this actually, it did happen in Long Island, New York, in a neighborhood called Amity. So that's obviously where they got it from. So people were, like, watching this, like, hearing about it, reading it in the newspapers, watching it on TV, like, maybe, I don't know what courts looked like back then. But, and then the book came out in 77. So they're reading the book, and then the movie comes out in 79. So, like, it's not that far removed, and it's like this guy is like a real dude that is in prison, and you're like reading about how this other family like moves into his house and now the house is haunted or whatever. So that to me is like really sensational.
Yeah, I definitely, because like I think if this movie had come out and there wasn't that like that sort of thing going on with it, I don't know if it would be as beloved as it is now. Like
Yeah, no, yeah.
because I feel like it would have just been like a haunted house movie that would have come out and people would have been like, "This is fine," or
Yeah.
like would have loved it then, and then just throughout the years it would have maybe fallen by the wayside a little bit, and then, like, just I don't know. I think the based on a true story kind of helps it in its goal a lot. That like I think it
100%,
does a
yeah.
lot of the heavy lifting of like even like the like it's definitely one of those movies that's like based on a true story but like is like 90% fake bullshit.
That was weird. What the heck?
I have no idea. Maybe we're being haunted.
We might be. What I was saying is you're 100% true. You're true. Just like this story. No, is that this is like outside of like as far as any of the like famous hauntings go, this is, they're all controversial because it's all mostly just like people saying, yeah, this happened or no, this didn't happen. And this is like one of the more controversial ones because like um even the whole like their spin on this is that like the guy DeFeo was like possessed by a demon and the demon told him to do it and whatever. And but then in real life, like, yeah, he did say that he heard voices. He also lied about it in the very beginning. He's told like 6 or 7 different accounts of like what happened. Like um I don't know. He was like, oh, it was a hitman. Oh, no, it was me. No, it was my friend. No, it was my sister and me. And there's just like, so there's controversy about even like what happened in the backstory. And then when you get to George and Kathy, the people who move into the house, $80,000 was the real price that they paid for it, which I think is crazy. They did actually stay there for 28 days. Um, it's like, I don't know. There's just like a lot of controversy about this one, and so like some of the stuff was made up, some of it was real. Like I'm pretty sure. So you know that the scene to me that doesn't work in this movie is towards the end when George is like running around with his axe, because there's like noises and the doors are opening and closing, and he looks up into the house and he sees a huge giant stuffed pig. They That's Jody, that's the imaginary friend, and from a lot of the things that I've read, they say that actually happened. Like the whatever you want to say, if it was a spirit or if it was a demon, we don't know, manifested itself as sometimes an angel, sometimes a giant pig. So it's like, even if you're somebody that does believe in hauntings, that's a little that's a little hard to swallow.
Do they bring the pig into the remake? I can't remember.
I don't remember either, honestly. I hope not. 'Cause, woof.
I like at least based on these first four, especially when we get into the lamp one. Like I lost my mind in the lamp one where they had like, oh, we'll get to it with the fucking the face in the lamp. I was like, oh my god, what's happening?
Yeah. But so yeah, I don't know. I feel like 100% if this was just like a movie that somebody wrote as is, didn't have any real basis, didn't have any sensational case behind it, I feel like probably wouldn't have gotten as much track.
I definitely don't think it would be like the classic it's considered now. I think it would just be like a 70s horror movie people like talk about, but like it's just kind of around as opposed to on the list of every best top 10 horror movies
of like
ever
must
made
see
and
or
shit.
whatever. Yeah.
It's the one I think I was like the least excited to watch out of all of these, and that's including like Amityville Island and fucking Witches of Amityville, all this fucking bullshit.
I'm really excited for the shark one.
I started that at like a couple months ago, and I made it like 10 minutes in, and I was like, I can't watch this right now. This is terrible.
Oh no. You know, the other thing I was thinking that probably made this like a much bigger thing is that like at the time, and this is, I think you were saying this when we got cut off. So the beginning of Conjuring 2, so I don't know that anybody would not know what The Conjuring is, but the Conjuring series is basically like they're also all based on true accounts of paranormal things. So some of the things they change. The second one is about, I'm pretty sure, the Enfield thing, which is like another one of like the really prolific cases of like a family being haunted or whatever. But the very beginning is like, I don't know, 10 minutes of them like investigating Amityville, and Ed and Lorraine Warren like legit in real life did come to the house like when the Lutzes were there to like do an investigation or whatever. So that was also in the papers. And I am wondering like why that wasn't included in the movie, and maybe it's just like a licensing, like they didn't want to have their likenesses portrayed or something. There's a lot of controversy around them too.
Yeah, I was gonna say there's probably was like a let's just not dip our toes into it,
lawsuit.
Yeah,
they probably would have gotten one. Yeah,
I definitely feel like the last like decade there's been like this like resurgence of looking into them, I guess, and like kind of people like idolizing them because of the Conjuring movies, but then also people being like, yeah, well, they were also kind of trash people, so
Yeah, if you also like if you I got like really interested in like old-timey people who claimed that they could do like seances and things like that. And there's like um a slew of them that essentially like these scientists created like a group specifically to go around and like investigate people who could like conjure spirits and who could do this and who could do that. It's like really interesting because like, of course all of them are most of them have been like really badly debunked. But at the time it was kind of like even if you had the scientist guy being like, hey, these two people, like Ed and Lorraine, they're just like, they're hoaxes. They don't know. They're just, John Edwardsing you or whatever. People didn't care. Like, they just, like, did not care. So, kind of interesting now that it's, like, coming out as new information when people knew, like, all along and just decided to just give them a pass. So, I don't know.
Yeah, I listened to a podcast. It was either Behind the Bastards or Knowledge Fight. I forget which one, where they talked about this lady that was doing. I think it was the lady where they have a bunch of those pictures of like the weird shit coming out of their mouth from like the 30s or
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah, yeah. That's what I'm talking about.
And
Like, the
like,
ectoplasm.
yeah, and like how like it
Yeah.
ended up like they were talking about like how it was actually done and shit. And it was pretty interesting.
Yeah. There's like some really wild pictures that have surfaced from those. Pretty crazy. Anyways, so
Yeah, I don't.
I don't know.
I don't have a lot about this one because this is definitely like somehow still my least favorite out of these first four.
Wow. Um, I think the things that I did that like I did think that this movie did some things kind of well. Like I did like the music. It definitely influenced a lot of the music we have nowadays, like especially in like you mentioned Insidious. It reminded me a lot of like the Insidious music, which I don't know if it's a popular opinion or not, but Insidious, like the very first one, is like one of my favorites. So I appreciated that a lot because there's also like a really profound use of the color red in this movie that I found to be super, super cool. And they do that a lot in Insidious also. But I don't know, like this was fine. I specifically remember like the fly scene with the priest like really freaking me out when I was younger, and I still don't love it. Um,
Yeah,
and I
I just love that he goes in that room and is just like after being told not to come in the house, but also the house like lets him in the house. It's a very confusing scene.
Yeah, and then he's like the family's like also I'm like, didn't they know he was coming? They just like hopped on their boat and like sped away while he's like stuck up there. I was like, didn't he have an appointment or whatever? I was gonna say the only other thing I was gonna say about this movie that I like is that we get the murders in the very beginning. When they're getting shown the house and it's like very silent and it's like cutting between like the murders happening and this. And I feel like this is one of the only movies where like you already know going in that like some really bad stuff happens at this house and they know that moving in, which like I feel like normally it's the opposite. It's like people move into a house and they have no idea and then slowly things start happening and they piece it together, but it's kind of like I don't know, they just like already knew going in that this place is probably fucked up. So I thought
Yeah,
that was a cool take.
it's it's got its moments. I just feel like again like that the remake kind of does them better.
Yeah.
And I don't
I
know.
haven't seen the remake in a while, but I remember really liking it. So
Yeah,
it'd be
I'm
interesting
excited.
to.
I haven't seen it since I saw it like I think the day it came out in the theater, so I'm excited to like revisit that.
So what did you rate this one out of 5?
Let me get back to it. 2.
Okay, I gave it a 3. I still like this one, but I gave it a 3. So
It's yeah, it's just a movie that like I never feel the need to rewatch ever again.
okay.
I've seen it now twice, probably more than that, but like 2 times I can at least remember, and I'm good.
I do have to say, like, a lot of the appeal to these earlier movies to me is like obviously the house in the movie is not the real house. It does resemble it like pretty well, but I love like the house. I think is gorgeous. I think the area that they live in with like the trees and the pier and like all that stuff, it has like a feel to it that I just like watching
Yeah, the house
it.
I
So
like the because the house I believe is in New Jersey, or like was
the
or
filming
something.
house.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
it
Mm-hmm.
like it they definitely like picked a house that looks cool shit.
Yeah, I love it.
All right, let's go to
Whew.
1982's Amityville 2: The Possession.
We are ramping shit up.
I was very into this movie. Like,
Uh,
I read some stuff about it, and this was I think the first of 2 that Dino De Laurentiis
yeah.
was a producer on, and like, it's interesting like how, which granted it was like 3 years later, and it's I guess sort of a prequel.
So this is where it's confusing to me because in the first movie, they legit like reference DeFeo, the real person, because there's like a scene where somebody is like tells James Brolin, that's
Yeah,
his name, that he looks like him, which he actually kind of does, but like to be fair, looks like most men in the late
it's the 70s.
70s. And so then when we get to this one, for some reason, I thought I read somewhere that it was a prequel. And so I was like, oh, okay, so this is going to be about like the actual DeFeo family. And it's not. It's a made-up family that is based off of the DeFeos. And I learned something I don't like about it. So I think what they were trying to go for is that like, because I was trying to like piece through the timeline of this. So I'm like, okay, so it's the first movie, like the DeFeo thing happened, the let's move in, the let's move out. They basically just like flee after 28 days. I did also like the countdown in the first movie too.
Yeah, I do
So then
like that.
they leave because then we see so far all the movies that we've watched, the very beginning of the movie starts with the house being for sale. So then I'm like, okay, is it a prequel, or is it like this family moved in after the Lutzes left, but it's a prequel just in that it was kind of based on the original family?
Right.
I'm not really sure.
Yeah,
Because
that's
he
kind
essentially does, the thing.
Yeah, I would say that's kind of what I assumed, that they were just like, well, let's tell the story, like because it's definitely like ahead in time, because dude has like a Walkman and shit he's walking around with.
Yeah, that's how he hears the whispering, which I thought was like pretty cool, because I definitely expected there to be more of that in the first one, but it wasn't.
It like yeah, I think I liked this movie a lot more because of shit like that. Like, and like obviously this one's got like probably what I'm going to assume are the best special effects in the series.
I would yeah, I would hazard to
I'm
say.
guessing, because the effects in this are very, very like great practical 80s effects, especially when you get to like the end. But
Yeah.
like the slow kind of like how can I say the word? Deteriorate. God damn it.
Deterioration?
Yes. Of shit, what's his name? Sonny? And like the weird like bubbling of his skin and shit all looks pretty cool. And then you get to the end when, like, a spoiler, like his just fucking head breaks apart and just like a weird monster thing is in him. Like, it's just very weird and cool. I had seen that in like I'd seen this movie before, but I didn't totally remember a lot of it. And I know I'd seen that in like documentary footage and shit, because I think they maybe talked about this in one of the In Search of Darkness documentaries, but when that shit started happening, I was like, oh hell yes, this rules.
Yeah, I wasn't really sure what to expect. But this is definitely more of like a real movie because it's like it goes farther than the first one did, whereas this one takes like literally just the loose idea of the fact of like this kid like killing his family, right? And just like really runs with it. And there's a lot of like imagery in it that's like symbolic and not necessarily something that I don't know. There's like certain things in the movie that you watch it and then you're like, is this symbolic? Did this really happen? I don't really know. And I really like that about it. Like, specifically, what you just said, where his literal face breaks apart and there's like a demon inside, but like, he's fine afterwards. You know what I mean? So, like, that obviously didn't happen. Then there's also a scene of like the house going up in flames, which also didn't happen.
I feel like this house gets like destroyed in a lot of them, and then is just like totally there and fine.
It's fine. Yeah. Yeah, I wasn't really sure what to expect in this, but like I think the very first scene, shit, I can't really remember, but like I also really liked the soundtrack in this one. It was like pretty cool.
Yeah.
And they really, like I said earlier, embrace the spooky shit in this because it is popping off. There's like doors flying over, chairs flying everywhere. Like this family gets haunted like almost immediately. And so like the difference between like when they move in and everything's like normal, I have to say the thing that made this movie the obviously the questionable thing is the incest between Sonny and his sister, but I did a little bit of digging and apparently like that was a real rumor about like DeFeo and one of his sisters.
Oh, really?
So I guess it was not made up.
That's
Like obviously there's no like he himself didn't say, yeah, I had an affair with my sister or whatever, but like there were rumors about that because one of his like stories about what happened was that he did it because of something involving his sister. Like his sister was the one that did it and he kind of like helped defend her or something like that. So like that's not totally off base, but it did really take me for a shock in this movie.
I had to like immediately look up because that scene happens and like Diane Franklin is the sister in this movie who most people know from like Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure as one of the princesses. She was in Terror Vision as well and a bunch of other stuff. But I was like, so she's like topless in the movie, and I was like, is she old enough to be topless in this? And so she was 20 in this, so that checks out. But like, I was just like, how old are these kids?
Geez.
But so, like, that scene happened, and I went to Wikipedia, and like, the scene's weird, but like, I like the payoff of her going to like the confession and being like, he said he did it because he wants to make God mad, and I was like, that's pretty funny. But the director Damiano Damiani, I think Damiani, has talked about how he wanted this movie to upset audiences at almost every turn as much as possible, and like filmed an actual full-on like sex scene with them that after a test screening he was like forced to cut. And then there was like shit where like I think the kids, like, I think Jan was one of the kids, and then Mark are the two, like, little kids. Something like that. Like Jan, like, holds Mark's head underwater in a bath for, like, an extremely long time. Due to, like, the house and shit. Like, there's a bunch, like, and apparently there was a bunch of other scenes shot that people don't totally know what they were because the footage doesn't exist anymore, but you can find like, I guess there were like lobby cards with some of like still images from them that you could still kind of like come across. But he specifically wanted the movie to like be as like weird and uncomfortable as he could make it within like that studio system and shit, and like I think he kind of accomplishes it, like with, you know, like like the incest scene is is pretty fucking weird and out of nowhere, and it like I think the effect of it like being implied, but also like you're like, yes, that definitely happened, but it kind of like they kiss and then it just cuts to like the next scene. It kind of works a little better than.
Yeah, I agree. Because for like a couple seconds of at least you don't really know how far it went, and then she like it's cuts immediately to her like uh confessing, and you're
Yeah.
like, "Oh shit." And then like there's other things that kind of make you feel like it wasn't just the one time thing. We never see it again, but there's like kind of hints. And then there's like, Sunny comes down. The one moment where he seems normal is his birthday party. And he's like, "Oh, thank you guys so much. I love you. You're so, like being nice." And the parents are like, or the mom is like, "Oh my God, thank God he's normal." Because like up until now, he's sort of just being like an angsty teen. Like it's whatever. But then um, the sister, is her name Patricia in the movie?
Yeah.
Gives him a sweater, and he hugs her, but then like rubs the small of her back, and the mom sees, and she's like, "What the fuck?" And just like little things like that. Yeah, pretty
Oh yeah. And
disturbing.
then just like all of the shit with the mom and dad is like just more because
Ugh.
they had like Burt Young, the fucking, I think he was like the coach at Rocky, like right
Yeah.
before this. So he was like this beloved fucking like actor, immediately takes a role as like just this wildly abusive like stepdad person. I can't remember if it was like actual dad or not, but like is straight up insinuated that like he like rapes his wife because she's just
Yeah.
like not attracted to him and like is abusive to everybody in the household. It's fucked up.
It's pretty bad. And so I feel like I would have liked the angle of seeing more, because again in this movie we don't really see a lot of action surrounding like the younger kids, which like normally in paranormal stuff, like the kids are the target, right? Or they're like the catalyst, and it's not like that. Um because I could have myself spent less time with the father, um who was Andrew Prine.
Oh, Father Adamski or whatever
Yeah,
as
like
James
I didn't.
Olsen.
Oh, okay, I didn't really like. The thing that I did like about this movie is like, yeah, the all of the stuff with like Sonny getting possessed was like insane looking. There was like a part where he is kind of like getting more inundated with like the quote unquote evil spirit or whatever, and he's like laying on the bed and his stomach is like collapsing in on him, and his ribs are all sticking out, and it was like gross. And I was like, I don't know, this movie kind of slaps. Like I wasn't expecting to like it at all, but it was like pretty good. And then all of the stuff they did to his face was like super gross. But then it's like pretty soon, like he kills his whole family. It's like a whole thing, right? But then we go past that. We see his trial. We see him go to like some kind of institute where the father is like, "Hey, like this isn't what he needs. He needs an exorcism. We need to take him to the church." And so he tries to like steal him. Um, Immediately gets overpowered by Sunny because, of course. And then there's like a really just a long scene of him sort of like wandering around the house, which some of it I thought was pretty cool. Like when he first gets to the house, it's like thunderstorming and raining inside the house only, which I thought was pretty cool. But then there's like this whole weird thing in the basement with like zombies and stuff. And I was like, I don't understand what this is about. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, this is the one that had like the fucking the basement that I was like waiting for
So,
something cool to happen with. That like I guess
yeah,
it does do stuff, but not a whole lot.
the thing that's confusing to me about this whole situation is that like in each like in the movies so far that have been in the Amity house, the basement is different. So in the first one we have the red room that was like hidden underneath the stairs that had a hole full of black sludge. In this one we get the secret room in the basement, which was literally just like you lift up a little trap door and there was like gross sludge and shit. And then In the third one, there's a well for whatever reason, a dry well, and then, we leave the house. So it's just like, why is there different shit? Oh, I also liked in this one that specifically they said the house is haunted because it is not only, of course, on some kind of sacred burial ground, which in real life was turned out to be that they could never determine that was actually true. But also there was witchcraft there. And I was like, just got to hit him with the double punch.
Yeah, all of it.
It's double haunted. Yeah. But, I don't know. Like, overall, I think if this movie didn't have, like, the insane graphics, or not graphics, effects that it had, like, wouldn't have worked as well for me. I think that really, like, pushed it over for me.
Yeah, I agree. Like, but I think it's something that, like, it needed, especially going into, like, the 80s, where, like, that's kind of the big thing in the 80s was kind of, like, these insane effects starting to, like, really take hold. And then, like, if this would have just been, like, another... Because, like, 3 kind of takes the step back and, like, into becoming just another kind of boring ghost movie.
Yeah.
And, like... I don't know, this movie just feels like this weird, misplaced, like, at least based on these first 4 so far, like, it's just like this weird stepchild of, like, the Amityville series that is baffling to me that it was made, and, like, especially as, like, the second one.
Yeah. It is kind of weird that, like, it goes from just kind of like a haunting. I mean, like, I guess to be fair, like, in the first one, the dad is sort of being possessed by something. It just doesn't go all the way because they end up escaping the house. Whereas in this one, Sonny, I think, is probably, a little bit more impressionable. So and he already hates his family because he's like a teenage guy or whatever. And so he gets, like, possessed really fast. But then... yeah, in the third one, it's kind of like back to just, well...
I mean, there's, like,
okay, we'll talk
there's
about
things
it.
in the third
it's just,
one.
It's not as intense. This one was really intense. It was, like, really action-packed. There was literally no... like, in most, any horror movie, usually the beginning is kind of, like... just normal, like nothing happens, a family's in transition, or you get to know the characters a little bit. Everything is kind of like a little bit more lighthearted, and then everything starts ramping up. This one is just like right into it, and it's like kind of balls to the wall the whole time.
Yeah, this one is also like, it was that I feel like they reversed it a little bit, because, like, when you get to the scene where Sonny's, like, going around and killing his family, I was like, there's 40 fucking minutes left of this movie. So I was like, I was like, okay, this is definitely just going to be, like, a dream sequence or some shit, like the father has this dream about all of this, because it cuts immediately to him waking up, and then when he finally gets to the house, you find out it was real, and I was like, oh, that's interesting, that, like, essentially the kind of climax of this movie was, like, 45 minutes in.
Yeah.
And then, like, you just get to, like, the actual end of the movie where dude's just fucking bodies melting apart and shit, and... I don't know. I like this one a lot. What did you rate this?
I gave it a 3.5.
Yeah, so did I.
Yeah.
This is one that, like, if I come across it on DVD, like a used or some shit, I will probably buy it.
Yeah, I think I did really like this one. I think, like I said, for me, I really feel like what was the name of the guy that played Sonny? Jack Magner. He was really only in this, and like this was like his only starring movie, I think. Yeah. He was only in 2 movies. I thought that he was amazing. He was like really the star of this for me, and I feel like the father became kind of like the focus after the murders, and his performance just like wasn't my favorite, honestly.
I will give you a preview that Diane Franklin returns as a different character in the Amityville Murders.
Oh.
So she comes back.
Is that the...
I don't know. It's one in 2018. Wow,
interesting. Oh, okay. Interesting. Because I did see there's a connection to the one Okay, never mind. Maybe this was like a misstep. Well, it said connection to Amityville curses or whatever
Oh,
that
okay.
this movie was mentioned, but then when you click on it, it's kind of like connected to a bunch of other Amityvilles just because it's Amityville. So,
Oh, gotcha.
so yeah. So
Yeah,
far, this out of the four remains my favorite.
yeah.
So we'll
That
see.
was definitely my favorite. All right. A year later, a third movie, obviously in 3D because it was the 80s, and a third movie.
I'm
Um,
not gonna lie, I kind of wish I could see this in 3D
yeah,
just to
same.
see what they were going for. Cause
That's what like a
wow,
lot of the reviews on Letterboxd were just like, I'd love to see this at a drive-in in 3D or fucking like whatever. Um, but Amityville 3D, 1983. So far, all three of these different directors. I think Dino De Laurentiis was, maybe he wasn't.
yeah, he was.
Oh, really? It doesn't show him on Letterboxd. I thought his name popped up on it, but
Yeah, it did in the credits because I remember I watched these two like in the same like back to back or
yeah,
whatever, and
so
I
did
was like,
I.
oh, he's back. Couldn't
Um,
not, yeah,
I remembered this movie entirely differently than what it was. Like in my mind, seeing this as a kid, like I remembered this being like a monster movie, and I think it's solely because of the poster.
yeah,
Because I was
yeah,
always like, oh, it was weird that like there was like an Amityville movie. There was like, I don't know why I remembered this being like turning into a monster movie, and this one is relatively boring.
yeah. Um, I we I did like the premise of it only because one of my favorite like little subgenres of things are when there's somebody who's like um I don't know, like their profession is being skeptic. So like in this one, the guy who buys the house is a reporter who works for a magazine that like debunks things. So the very, very opening, you see like this lady giving a seance to this what you think is a couple trying to like communicate with their dead kid, and then it turns out that like they're two reporters and they were lying, they don't have a kid, and they catch these people being frauds essentially. And I liked that. But then like it kind of didn't go a lot of places for me. And I also felt like part of the kind of like characteristic of this, of at least the first two, is that like people need to be in the house to be kind of like caught in the spell of it and stuff. And we're already in the third one, and like most of the deaths occur outside of the house. So
Yeah,
I was kind of like not really into that. And also just like not a lot of stuff happened, and the ending sort of didn't make a lot of sense to me.
I like
So
I feel like the only thing I actually kind of really enjoyed in this movie was like the stupid, colorful 3D
yeah,
effects. like for some reason, like they do this thing in this movie, which I guess not for some reason. Like I get why they did it, but like they kind of do these like purple and pink kind of bright colored floating, I guess, apparition effects sometimes
mm-hmm,
that like don't look great, but they're kind of fun in that charming like 80s way. So I kind of
yeah,
enjoyed that, but like I really didn't like this main actor, the guy that plays John.
Tony
Yeah,
Roberts.
like not even necessarily the actor. I didn't like this character. Like,
Nah,
and like I did this. I guess this is the first one out of like so far that like I didn't really give a shit on what happened to anybody involved, because it's also his daughter
yeah,
is Lori Loughlin and
holy
her
crap,
friend is
yeah.
Meg Ryan.
I was like, what is going on here? Yeah, yeah, I agree with you. Because it's like this guy kind of seems like sort of a dick.
Oh, this is Meg Ryan's second movie.
Oh wow, she wasn't. She, you know,
Yeah, I mean,
I
she
could
doesn't
tell.
really do a
That
whole
is
lot in it, but
no.
I was just curious what this
Um,
was in like her filmography because it was a movie called Rich and Famous that I don't know anything about. Then this, and then Top Gun. So quite a step, and then
yeah,
immediately into like a bunch of bullshit, like 5 movies that I've never heard of until When Harry Met Sally.
yeah. It looks like this was actually Lori, Lori Loughlin's like first real movie because everything else was either a TV movie or a series.
Oh, she was in
Um,
Rad.
yeah. So that's interesting. I did. I don't know. There's not a lot of things that like stand out to me except for the very beginning, and then I did really like again big spoiler, big spoiler. There's a scene where Meg Ryan. So Lori Loughlin is the daughter of the reporter who buys the house. Him and his wife are going through a divorce or a separation. Who really knows? Their relationship made no sense to me. And the wife is like, "That house is evil. I don't want you going there." And so the daughter, whose name is Susan in this, decides that she is going to like her and her friends are gonna want to do a seance and they're gonna do a Ouija board in a house, which come on, come on, come on. So they go pretend that they're talking to a spirit or they are talking to a spirit or whatever, immediately decide that they want to go on a rowboat or not a rowboat, a speedboat. And the wife realizes that Susan has gone over there. So she goes over there and is like looking around for her, can't find her. And then all of a sudden, like Susan walks in and is like just like completely drenched in water. And her mom is like, "Oh, Susan, like what are you doing?" And Susan just like walks upstairs and is like completely ignoring her. And then meanwhile outside, like her lifeless body is just like laying there with the dad because she's like fallen in and died, but like the mom doesn't know that. And then the mom just like completely cracks after that. But I thought that scene, the way that they shot it or like showed it, like was really cool. I haven't really seen like something like that in a movie.
Yeah, I did like that. Like her, like walking in, like soaking wet, and
Yeah,
then
and the mom's
just
just like
like that.
totally convinced it's her.
I think that's like one of the only kind of like haunting scenes in this movie that like kind of plays out pretty well.
Yeah, because other than that, it's like dumb stuff like the faucet turns on by itself and it's steamy. Actually, there was kind of a cool like effect in that scene too, where like so he hears like the water on and he goes in the bathroom and as he's trying to like turn off the water because it's like boiling lava hot and there's like steam, the back wall is just like coming closer to him to where there's like almost no bathroom, but he doesn't notice. And I'm like, oh, but then they brought the flies back. The flies are in every movie. They brought the flies back, and like you can tell, like the parts in this movie that were supposed to be 3D, you could really tell because they looked absolutely terrible, just like watching it on a 2D. And I think I don't know. I feel like maybe I would have liked this movie a tiny bit more if they had like made a version that just was 2D looking because the effects, the 3D effects, non 3D were just so shitty looking.
Yeah, this suffers from the thing that Jaws 3D suffers from, except that Jaws 3D is kind of like a fun movie, and
Hmm.
like you could watch like Friday the 13th Part 3 and like totally like not pay attention to the stuff that's supposed to be 3D because really it'll just be like the dude shooting you with like the fucking fishing spear, but it's just aimed at the camera. But like this is like, as opposed to stuff like aimed at the camera or whatever, shooting at the camera, it's just stuff kind of like over, like that's supposed to be like I don't know how to explain it. Like the flies and like the apparitions, they're just like there and in 3D. They're not like they're like there was no real purpose to them being in 3D other than like the gimmick of it being
To make a
3D.
3D
Yeah.
movie. Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
nothing really flies at you really, or like does anything that warrants the 3D. It's just kind of there.
So there's one scene that like, okay, towards the end, I don't really know like what the ending of this movie was. Like, essentially the house, like, so what was his name? John?
Yeah.
It gets this like guy from the Institute of Psychic Research to come because he's like, stuff's happening at the house or whatever. And also Nancy, his wife, after Susan, the daughter, dies, is kind of like in a weird trance where she refuses to believe that Susan's actually dead. There's all kinds of shit going on in the house. The kitchen's destroyed, and she's like, haha, Susan, you're so silly. And she's just like off the deep end. And so he brings like the guy to come, and he's like really excited because he's like, yeah, we're gonna get evidence of spirits. And so like there's a scene where like the ghost ball green boat guy thing is like luring Nancy into the basement. I did think it was kind of cool because like when you see the surveillance video, like you can't see the spirit, so it looks like she's just like in a trance or something. Right. But then they follow it into the basement, and like the researcher guy is like, don't stop her, like let's see what's going on. And then the researcher guy, again, spoiler alert, ends up getting grabbed by some kind of demon thing out of the well in the basement that is suddenly full of water. Then he gets like pulled in, but then the geyser of water turns into ice or something. And then all of a sudden the house just starts like destroying itself. And I don't know why, but there's this scene where like John is trying to like get Nancy out of the house because like camera people are getting flung everywhere and there's like shit exploding and like whatever. But there's this like huge swordfish type thing on the mantle that comes flying at the screen, and it's supposed to be 3D, but you could totally see like the string that they pulled it on, and I was like, oh wow, that's not great. And then they do end up getting out, but then the house explodes. Like, for real explodes. There's, like, debris. It's completely exploded and gone. And I was like, why?
Yeah.
I wrote, why house explodes? Like, I cannot wrap my mind around, like, what actually happened in this movie.
And then they just rebuilt it for the next one.
Yeah.
Same specifications, everything.
Yeah, it's the same house. It's fine.
I wonder how much money the people that own this house like made just to let them film, you know, the outside of the house for a little bit.
Yeah, I don't know, but so yeah, not great. I gave it a 2.
Yeah, same.
Okay.
It was. I don't know why I remember this movie being better than it was, but I think it's all the poster, because the poster's just like a giant monster hand coming out of like one of the windows, and it makes it seem like it's gonna be way cooler than it is.
Yeah, and in reality, to be fair, there is a demon monster, and it doesn't look anything like the hand on the poster. It's like flesh colored.
Yeah. All right, let's talk about the last of these 4. From 1989, ending out the 80s, Amityville, The Evil Escapes. I feel like this is the one we will have differing opinions on.
You think so?
I don't know. Like, I didn't hate this one. I think this one was just stupid enough that it held my attention, while also being kind of boring, but, like, I don't think it was as bad as 3.
I would agree with you. I found this one extremely boring. I did not care for the dynamic between... So, Patty Duke is a main character in this one, and she is...
She's the mom.
She's the grandma, right?
Is she the mom or the grandma? I don't know.
I don't know either.
I think she's the mom, because is the grandma... Who was... Yeah, grandma's Peggy, right? No.
Maybe.
Maybe not. Maybe she is the grandma. Because Peggy, the actress who plays Peggy was in Evil Dead 2, which I feel like she would have made after this. So I think
It's hard because her headshot is like when she was really young,
yeah,
like really
I
young.
think Patty Duke is the mom because that's who this headshot looks like, the mom.
Okay,
And
so
I
she,
hated everyone in this family, so
yeah, yeah. So basically, either way, like the main, like the story. Oh my God. Okay, so the story is that in the very beginning of this movie, um, the house, the Amityville house is back to normal. It's fine. It's been sold again or getting ready to be sold. They're doing an estate sale essentially. And so all of this like group of priests go in and yeah, I was trying to remember. There's no priests in the third one, is there?
I don't think so. I think it was like like a detective or some shit. No, maybe.
Either, well, there's little to no priests as opposed to the rest of the movies that have just like droves of them. So this like group of priests goes in to like cleanse and bless the house or whatever. And I don't know, the demon, we're now just saying it's a demon that lives in the house, just like bloop bloop, goes into the power cord and transports itself into the ugliest lamp I've ever seen in my life. It's like it looks like a tree sort of with like a big ball bulb on top, like a huge one, and then like two little arms with like two little lights or whatever. And we see a demon face in it a few times. You know,
It's
completely different
the
demon than
worst
any
effect.
demon we've seen before. Yeah. And basically it like fucks up this priest guy. And then a lady buys it at a yard sale who is essentially like, haha, this is so ugly. I'm going to buy it for my sister, which I loved. But then she um, also like pricks her, like cuts her finger on it. Her finger looks so freaking gross afterwards. So she buys it at this estate sale in New York, ships the lamp to California where her sister lives, and then her sister's daughter and children come to live with her, and then stuff just starts happening. And I think the reason I didn't like this one is because like the stuff that happens, I did like at least we have sort of like a possessed child in this one. Their father has passed away, and one of the girls who makes really freaky faces, like thinks that the demon in the mirror is actually her dad or whatever. So there's a lot of stuff surrounding that. But the other stunts in this movie were either devastatingly terrible, like spoiler alert and trigger warning, pets die.
Yeah.
I audibly gasped. I literally was like, and also, like, specifically one of the instances I can think of is when the boy goes into the basement and picks up a chainsaw and then starts chainsawing things, and I was like, I can't turn it off, and I was like, this is fucking stupid.
That's so
Um,
good. That kid's such a
but
bad actor in this too that it just made it
oh,
so
he's
funny.
terrible. Oh, he's bad. Yeah. And then it's just like the kids are brats. One of them's possessed. The older one is just like being a bitch to her whole family. There's all this like tension between the mom and the grandma because the grandma was like, ever since you've been here, my house is all wacky, malacky, and shit. And I just was like, I don't know. I just felt like it was just. I mean, there were some pretty gnarly things that happened in it. Like, we get, you know, someone sticks their hand down a disposal, then their hand is found at a later date. Pretty gross.
I just like the hand
Um,
was like fully intact still.
yeah, it had like a ring on it and shit. And then the reason that I feel like I've seen this before, and I don't know if maybe they also did this in like a poltergeist movie, but I specifically remember there's like this part where somebody, I think it's one of the fathers, picks up the phone to call somebody, and then the phone starts melting. Like, I have a really, really vivid memory of that scene, and I remember it scaring me when I was
Um,
younger. But I
I
don't know
feel
if,
like that's probably happened in some other movies.
okay, so yeah, I'm not sure. I felt like, um, but anyways, yeah, I don't know. And then this movie, again, you know, I don't know. Yeah, just
It,
There was like a whole part in the middle that I just was like almost falling asleep. I thought it was so boring, but
yeah, like it's not great, but I found it. I think just like the trying to see what was going to happen with this lamp held my attention enough, because the lamp looks stupid, and like
yeah,
the idea that like this kid thinks her dad's in the lamp or whatever, because like that's what the demon is making her think. I
yeah,
was like, okay, I'm like in enough. Like I wasn't like just overly bored. Like I kind of was just like all of three. I was like, oh my god, please just be over. Um, but like I don't know, like the family in this and their dynamic is just almost unbearable because
yeah,
all they do is argue. They're all fucking terrible.
yep.
The shit with the chainsaw was pretty funny, at least.
So
Um,
stupid.
the
The grandma is like overbearingly religious too. She's like, "Oh, now you're lying about using the chainsaw. That's a sin." And then she's like dumping on her daughter for like raising a liar. And I was like, "Come on."
yeah, like they just kind of dump you into this family that like is shitty and doesn't get along, and you really don't get an explanation as to why. I don't think. Just that like the
No,
mom, like the dad, Nancy's husband died, and so they're going to like live with the grandma for a little bit because his like life insurance money ran out. And but
yeah,
like the all you find out, like the only time it's ever even really brought up is I think Nancy says something to her older daughter about like Amanda, I think her name was. Um, it's just like, oh well, grandma's just it's set in her ways, and you're just like, that's it. She's set in her ways is just being a piece of shit to you.
yeah.
So, oh, Amanda was from Doctor Giggles and Leprechaun 3.
Oh, okay. I thought she looked really familiar, but I did not look her up. So that makes sense. I like how the storyline for this says the demonic force lurking in Amityville for over 300 years escapes to California. Where, where are they getting that time frame from? Because like the thing about these movies is that like it's not like it's like somebody happens to mention it's a burial ground or it's witchcraft, but like there's never any discovery about what actually happened
Well,
there.
one of maybe two. Somebody goes to like a library, and like this
Yeah,
library
that's the one where they just said it was like a burial ground, and then somebody bought the house and practiced witchcraft there. But like,
that just feels like some shit that like a priest says in a throwaway line that like just nobody like
yeah,
remembers. It's just like, oh well, it's been like 300 years that house or whatever, and like I don't know.
yeah, maybe I just missed it. I
Yeah,
don't know, but and then it's like comes back again to the end where it's like, can the young priest defeat the demon? And I'm like, you know what? I don't care anymore.
it's there. It's gonna be really interesting. I feel like after the next group of movies, because the next four end in '96, and then it's a decade until the remake.
Yeah,
And so, like, I really feel like the next four is going to be the same type of thing, where it's just like shit happens and like a priest is involved.
different
Yeah.
objects from the original
And then we
house,
start getting into the ones that all have posters that look pretty much the same.
like like trash. Yeah.
And
Um.
I'm interested to get into that stuff because, like, I assume the next movie we'll do is the Amityville Curse, and that title alone makes me think it's going to be bad. But Amityville 1992, It's About Time, I assume is going to be
Yes.
very stupid. I can't wait to watch.
Yeah, I'm
And
really looking
then
forward to that
there's
one.
Amityville: A New Generation, that like if you look at
That one.
Letterboxd, like there's like a little header image, at the top of them, and
Mhm.
it looks, I don't know, it looks like it's gonna be okay. Like, I don't know, it's a dude with like this giant light shining at him, so I don't know. But the last one that we'll do for that next episode will be Amityville, the Dollhouse. The header image is a giant fucking demon devil, and I am very in to see whatever this is going to be about.
Okay, so the covers that I see, all three of these, well, It's About Time, The Dollhouse, and A New Generation all have the house on them. The Dollhouse one is like a little girl sitting in front of the Amityville, and there's like light coming out of it. And this one actually still looks very much like the 80s ones, the one that came out in 96, so that's fine. But then like the It's About Time, the 92 one is the house with like a big clock behind it, and it's all blue. And so already, like, I don't know, the one from 93, A New Generation, is the house, but it's like got this shitty red orange filter over it. Yeah, which I feel like was really common for 90s covers, like kind of making it sort of like edgy or whatever. Like moving away from like, you know, creepy blue tones and going just towards like fire and whatever. So like, I don't know. I just like don't know what to expect.
I'm at least interested to see what all of them are, except for the Amityville Curse, which I assume is going to be stupid, but... Oh, no, maybe not. Amityville Curse, 5 people spend the night in an abandoned house, the Amityville haunted house, and soon find themselves terrorized by assorted ghosts, venomous insects, and ghostly apparitions.
Yeah, so the cover for this one looks very 80s.
With the face in the sky.
No, this just has the house behind it with somebody hanging from a tree. So very Conjuring
the one on Letterboxd is the same thing, except there's a huge face screaming in the sky.
Yeah, I don't get the face. We'll see.
I don't know. I'm kind of excited to watch these 4.
Ooh, the house looks really creepy. Okay, yeah, me too. We'll see. I think I'm more excited about this group than like the later ones with the shitty elf style.
You don't want to get to
covers, but
Amityville, Mount Misery Road.
I didn't even hear of that one. Or like 2015 Amityville Death House has like a spider lady on the front of it. Who knows what's gonna happen?
Yeah, some of these are gonna be real bad.
Yeah.
Anyway, so what did you rate Amityville: The Evil Escapes?
I gave that a 2 also.
I gave it a 2.5.
Okay.
It's fine.
Yeah, I mean, I did like it more than 3D, but
I give it like the kind of props for being the one to be like, let's get out of this house and do something different at least. Like, it's at least a different movie than the other ones while still having the same sort of, I guess, thing of like...
Yeah. I mean, and the house that we're in this one was still pretty cool looking because it's like, it's like an older, fancy grandma house with like floral wallpaper and shit. So like the house is still interesting.
I just love that this grandma,
even though it's not the character,
lives by herself in like a 3-story fucking 9-bedroom house or some shit.
I know.
Yeah, so that's the Amityville movies through 1989. All of them are streaming for free on like Tubi and Prime and stuff, except for the first one, which you have to rent.
It's HBO.
Yeah.
Oh, if you have HBO Max, it's on there.
Oh, was it? Well, I rented it.
Yeah, that and the remake are both on Max.
Oh, good. I didn't want to have to rent the remake.
Well, it's on there right now, so we'll see if we get there.
Yeah. But yeah, so the rest of these, God, probably be at least like 3 or 4 more episodes.
I probably, yeah.
Because especially when we start getting into the 2010 to 2020 or whatever, we may have to do 2 episodes because there's just fucking...
There's a ton, yeah.
I feel like Amityville Clown House is going to have to be...
its own episode.
But yeah, so these will, the rest of them will be on our Patreon at patreon.com/upyousufferpodcast. I'll probably just throw them as all levels. Fuck it. It's not like anything we promise. It'll just be an extra thing. So just if you're like signed up for whatever level, you'll get to hear the rest of them.
For as low as 2 smackos.
Yeah, two. I can't remember any other words for dollars.
Buckaroos.
Smack.
2
I don't think
bangos.
smackos is one either, but
I don't think bangos is either, but I like it.
I'm gonna start calling. Like, that'll be 5 bangos and 25 centurinos.
No, I don't like arenos.
I'm just gonna throw this out there because maybe somebody will listen and have it. Anybody's got a DVD they want to sell or can find me one of Amityville Vibrator, please let me know, because I cannot find it to watch anywhere, and I want to watch it for this.
Oh my god!
There was only 666 copies of the DVD made.
Oh.
And like their store envy or whatever is just like, oh, if like you missed out. I think as of like December it was of 2020, it was like, if you missed out on these, like, just wait, there's a Blu-ray release coming and like whatever, but like who knows when that's gonna be. So
what year did that come out?
I think 2020.
Oh, okay. All right.
So if anybody has any, if you're listening to this and you know a way that I could watch that movie either for free or that I could buy a DVD, I would love to see it, because it looks very stupid.
We manifested Santa Jaws so we can manifest Amityville Vibrator for you.
All I want in my life. But yeah, first 4, okay to pretty good.
Yeah,
I feel
whatever.
like it's all downhill from 2, but we'll see. I might be surprised. I'm gonna be real shocked if anything in like 2010 forward is at all watchable.
I will be too.
Yeah. I hope you Amityville.
Yeah.
I hope, for God's sakes, you get out.
I like it.